All right, so I will call this meeting to order. First thing is roll call. Council at Large Cummins.
Here.
At Large Postian. Ward number 1 Hembry. Here. Ward number 2 Helm. Here. And Ward number 3 McNeil. Here. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so move down to the agenda. There is one small addition under number 3 of the city business under H. It would be adding the authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign all related documents. This would be in reference to a possible gap loan for Circle P Veterinary Services. So with that addition to the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion.
Second.
McNeil with the first and Cummins with the second.
Hembry.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Postian.
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, so we'll move down to the communications, and we do have 2 scheduled communications. The first one is in reference to a volleyball tournament and beer garden in the park for August 6th from LMB's Poorhouse. There he is, Boots, yep, come on up.
I have to apologize, we do not have a lot. I don't have as much information as I was hoping to at this point. I think our goal now is just to give you guys a general idea of what we're thinking and then get it on the agenda for the next meeting. On August 6th, there's a 5K race sponsored by Focus Love, I think. And we're kind of, I guess, piggybacking off that. We would like to do a sand volleyball tournament up in the park. And I did talk to Adam about it. We met today, kind of looked at the area. We are thinking about the possibility of some type of beer garden up there. To me, the best spot looks to be straight south of the main volleyball court by the batting cages section off there. We are obviously going to have to contact the ABD, find out what rules and laws and regulations we have to follow, and also what we need to do for licensing to sell off our premise. So today, I guess what I'm just is giving you guys an idea of what we're looking at and by the time the council meeting comes up, I'll have more details on exactly what we're looking at doing, time frame, how we're gonna section that off so people, are contained in that area, not just things like that. So, anybody have some questions at this point?
Sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
Well, you almost have to make it come to the next council meeting on the 18th. I think that's the only one we have between now and that event.
Is it the 18th?
Yeah.
July?
All right, awesome. Yeah, yep. The second one that we have is rainfall and water issues at 533 East 6th Street, and it's Jeff and Jody Bird. I know there are some other people here, so make your way to the podium. And there is a movie, 2 movies along with it.
Do I get popcorn with my movie?
Just so we know who all is here for this item.
Well, us 2 are here. The parish house they brought it as VBS week. And so since it's at the church, they can't physically leave to come here since they are in charge of VBS. So they're gonna try to make it, if it was around 6, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Because it's affecting them also the most.
Okay.
Okay. Basically, when we moved in 2012, it just rainwater wasn't a big deal. A couple years later, we began getting sinkholes, contacted the city. Steve Nash came out, it was great. With Chris Nesbeck, they had found the old clay tiling had busted underneath there because we have a storm water that runs underneath our property and a secondary outlet in our property. They repaired that from the hill in our yard back to the storm drain that you'll see in the, I don't know what video you have up, you'll see, and they made it wider and it's bigger. And that was doing really well, of course, unless you get torrential down rain. not a big deal. We all kind of used to laugh and joke about it. My husband would throw a fishing pole out there just to be fun. And then I think it was 3 years later, we started getting, I call them sinkholes again. And we had, one person came out, thought it was animals. Then Steve came out again and said, no, it's not. And the new piping that had gotten put in had developed a, I don't know how to call it, a blowhole or a leak or a split. And they had to dig it up and repair it. And it's been functioning really well. However, now we are starting to get open holes again into our yard. The parish yard that is behind us now has, after this last storm, has 3 holes in their yard. And I called the Tom Ayers. I don't know who lives there now. They would be to the east of us on the other side of Clear Street. They have sinkholes or holes developing in their yard, and they also have a manhole in their yard also. And so there's something, I don't know, I'm no mechanic. I know rural, urban, rural, and land and all them have been out. And under their ideas is they're saying something down further needs to happen with the flow. Because they say ours is developing because it's back pressuring between the pressure coming down and not enough going forward down. And I know it tees it in according to the blueprints that we were shown off of 5th Street and going down. And then on the other side of Harvey's is the floodplain. And Steve could correct me if I'm wrong. But the last fall, we started getting sewage now in it. We've had to clean up, of course, feminine products, I'll do it the nice way, and some other stuff. We didn't really want to. Our area is fenced in, but I do run it in-home daycare. The 2 other areas I'm talking about, kids run back and forth to those areas. Also from school, everywhere else, I've witnessed that. The neighbor to the west, over the last year and a half, has built his ground up 2.5 feet approximately with dirt, which is now pushing more water towards the parish house, towards the other 2 homes and this way, and bringing more pressure into the systems also. So our concern is one, there's more holes developing in different yards, something needs to be repaired. 2, we shouldn't be getting sewage because we never had that issue before. The parish, Jay, he found a covered manhole in the bushes that nobody knew about, and so I'm not sure what that line is too. That is the biggest concern, because like I said, we run it in home daycare plus everything else, and I don't want nobody to get injured or hurt. We're good with just when the water's flowing and it exits, but when you're getting the sinkholes and sewage, to us, that's another issue. Yes, water runs off at this street, but if you ever look at a lot of the films, it's coming out of the manhole that's in the parish yard first. Then it comes out of the secondary outlet, and then if you go over to, like I said, the Tom Ayers yard, it comes out of that manhole way before it floods from the water coming down or from off of the street. So that's how it floods first, and then it comes down to the street, which I know Steve drove by several times on the 4th and noticed it, and it does come down, of course, the roads and stuff too.
So if you want,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think these are from Jay.
Okay, I don't know. Jay took, the minister's husband took them from 5th Street area.
Yeah.
I sent a whole bunch of videos from our direction. Yeah, these are Jay's.
So this is a driveway on 5th Street. This is at the bottom, and then you can see
And
the
the
water.
problem with her is she just had Leapers just built her driveway up, I think, a couple inches, and even when the water comes by, it's pushing it clear up into hers. I know that was one of the problems there. But it does flood there really bad, but they said the gap isn't as much as it should be for the drainage system on 5th Street, is what they were voting, but you guys can let me know on that. I mean, they seem smaller than they are on the 6th Street side.
That was Sunday.
This is Sunday, And that's mild.
Yeah, Monday, fourth Monday.
Yeah. We had right before the parade.
Yeah.
Right.
The worst it has gotten, there is a treehouse in the parish's yard, and it has reached the bottom of that at one time. And that's, what, 9 feet, 10 feet?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's always been, and I know Brian's been around a lot on that too, it's always been a fun thing a lot of people joked about, but the biggest concern is with a lot of the, yes, I sent a whole bunch of pictures. Oh, do you guys want that one?
Well, I showed a few of the, when we were on the fourth, but
That's the one where,
Jason wasn't there.
oh yeah, I sent you some too, so I don't know.
I think these are the same ones, so.
I think that's the one I sent him. But that one there was before you guys fixed it the second time. But yeah, now that we're getting the sewage and stuff in there, that's not, there's gotta be something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
So,
between getting the sinkholes and sewage in, that's,
It's not so much the water running our yard, we don't care about that. The sinkhole is a big problem. It's gonna continue to get worse.
water thing, I guess, we've always made fun of it until the sinkholes started developing, and then, I mean,
We don't mind
twice
the water.
Steve has
We
come
never
out,
had
helped
water
get it
in our
fixed and
house,
stuff, it's,
So we don't mind the water. And after it quits raining really hard, it subsides. It's just that now we're getting sinkholes again. Now we're developing sinkholes in other yards. So it's a real big concern that somebody's gonna get hurt.
mhm.
yeah, there's multiple things happening now that's gradually building bigger, and
Where are the sinkholes at?
they're, so where they put the underground part of the storm, I still call it tile, runs, it's around there, which is where it developed the last time. So that's where like some of the dirt was loose, so it'd be like where the backfill, now where the ministers is at. And the one video, you could actually see them bubbling up. You could see like geysers coming
On
up
the,
out of
on
them.
the fourth, when we had that big rain, and I've never seen this before, I just have.
His just started.
It just started. You could actually see it bubbling up out of the hole, like a little.
Yeah, I sent those too.
Yeah, we didn't get them
For
for some reason.
The sinkholes were around where the tube is?
Ours is, yes.
His are not.
I don't know
Okay.
where in his yard they're coming from, but we're, it's starting to bubble up in those areas too.
Like
The-
how-
And which house?
The parish house would be the one directly
Yeah,
behind
well,
our
that's-
house.
And I haven't.
Off this street?
Before, we could stick a rake in ours.
That would be the UCC church, I should say.
Before they fixed it, so, I mean, it was
I
pretty
see that.
substantially deep.
Steve, you handed us these maps. Can you, you want to
Oh,
expand on them for a second?
To better,
Oh, okay.
I would say to better clarify, the one thing I noticed is I went back to the bush where he found the manhole that's covered. And if you look from the minister's house, the manhole that's covered, and look towards our yard, his sinkholes are in line with those, which put the secondary outlet for us over here. So I'm not sure if this is another storm or if this is a sewage. I don't know what that one
Well,
is.
And if, when either Steve or Brian comes up, or whoever has a comment from the city, if you could also, along with the map, comment about what you think is causing sewage to appear.
So this is the first I've heard of the sewage issue, so
Yeah, Terry knew about it because he came out the one time, but then we got sick with COVID and then winter hit. So now it came out again. And so, yeah, unfortunately we got.
Is there a sewer main over there, same area?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
The
sorry.
manhole that Gary's talking about is the one that's up the hill.
Yeah, it is in a bush there.
That is a sanitary manhole.
Is it, he didn't know what it was and we never, none of us knew it was there.
We never popped that lid. I noticed that and I talked to Jay about that.
Okay, you did talk to Jay about it, okay.
And I said, no, that's gotta be sanitary because everything else is.
There's sanitary that comes there all the way from Cases. Goes through that very manhole. Comes along, it comes down around the corner of Ninth and Plum, turns south, goes all the way past the high school, through the hill, 25 foot deep. Turns left on Fifth, goes east, and then it follows the lay of the land. It goes down through that yard, underground, in pipe. The sanitary sewer main system goes right through there. And it's probably surcharged as heck by the time it gets down there in a good storm. I think some of this is hydraulic loading and extra pressure pushing out, probably causing the holes. They turn into a sinkhole, but they start out as a blowhole.
Yeah.
It's my theory.
Because the first time it happened, it got to the point where they were really deep, and then you guys fixed them because they were the old clay. And then they were doing really well, and then they back pressured and you had to fix it, and it took a lot to fix it, and it's, the hard part is that it's gonna keep being fixed, it's gonna put more money than if we do, my opinion, than if we try to fix it a different way. Does that make sense? Or am I confusing people on how I'm trying to explain it? Sorry. So, any more questions for me? I'm sorry. And I can resend pictures, because you said you didn't get them. Because unfortunately, sometimes my things go to spam because my email. So I can resend them. If you guys, I can resend them and you could reshare them so they get a better looking idea and stuff.
Could I ask you a question? In your mind, what would be an acceptable end result? You know, like no ponding at all, or less ponding, or what would you like to see to be the end result?
I don't care about the ponding, I said before.
Yeah,
Water is not an issue. It's the sinkholes or blowholes starting to pop
Okay.
up now.
okay,
That's the issue. It's really not the water. The water's never been an issue. We've never had water in our house. You know, like she said before,
We just have fun with the water because it's like, oh yeah, it's
it gets
not a
high,
big
but
deal.
it's never been in the house. So I don't
Huh?
care about the water.
okay,
Starting blowholes and stuff, starting,
okay.
that's the issue.
Yeah, and the sewage that is now starting to, because that's the biggest issue is it's like, why is we starting to get sewage and why is we, for the third time now, starting to get, well, like I said, it's blowholes, but then they turn into the bigger holes. And I think there's one or two that you could at least get a foot into now.
How frequent have sewage overflows been? Yes.
The sewage, is this the third time it's happened now? Yeah, something like that.
It's all been like the last
Regulation.
few. of
Yeah.
Where you've been.
And it's only when it's gotten like the really heavy rain. So obviously there's something somewhere.
Have they been reported to the DNR?
Was I supposed to report them to the DR?
Any SSO is required to be reported to the regional office and be documented. No fines are enforced at the present time. Shows the needs for the requirements. If you're having sanitary sewer overflows, you ask yourself the interlink between it and stormwater and you separate the two. Part of the new permit requirement for a $6.8 million facility is separate sewers. So if we're interconnecting sanitary with stormwater, we're getting tax surcharges to where you're seeing sanitary hit the surface. It needs to be heavily investigated as to what the origin is through that. There's a clean out down next to the car wash that flows out at the same time. The manhole that sets in behind the goalpost on the practice field for the school, it'll blow out too during a heavy rain event. Told Terry Jones at Region 6 until such time that it stops, I'll keep calling him every time I see it. And what it does is it helps the state provide funding to the communities to show the need, because they won't find you in the waterfalls In situations like that, I've seen them set up flood pumps to divert it. But, Steve's mentioned that some of our 38 project will alleviate some of that. So that's another aspect coming in. But anytime sanitary sewer discharges in a residential home or to the daylight, it's mandated to be reported. 20 years ago, I asked to look for MS4 requirements for our community. Because we're a small town, 3,000 and less, we don't have to abide by federal rules. MS4 requires you to retain the first inch on your property. That was justification for some of the stormwater discharge rules to where they could charge you for those fees. And then it allows the communities to help address those issues. So those fees collected address stormwater and they keep it separate from sanitary. But then that's 22 years ago that they passed MS4, but that's only for 100,000 and larger communities. We don't see it until.
Right.
That's something I mean,
Brian, or-
this is all unfamiliar territory to me. I'm just starting up where I.
Don't turn us down.
Brian or Steve?
Anytime the wastewater sees the daylight, it's necessary to be reported.
Okay.
If nothing else, let Brendan, this wastewater superintendent, so he can communicate to the regulators.
Did you guys have it? Either one of you have anything else?
Well, I just want to, just to shed a little light on what I know about it, and like I said, and I appreciate you bringing that to the table, but I didn't know about the sanitary sewer issues there.
Right, it kind of got lost when we got sick and then it happened again, and that's when it started.
And I really didn't know about the blowhole or sucking either.
The what?
I didn't know about the holes in the backyard reappearing again.
Well, it had just probably 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
just in our yard. And then on the fourth, that's when we noticed over in
On
the
the fourth,
neighbor's yard, they were starting to bubble up. That's,
Well, the one,
otherwise, like I told her, it couldn't happen at a better time on the fourth because it was right before. Not that I wanted to happen,
I
but
saw you
that was-
fishing out there. I didn't know.
what's
I
that?
saw you fishing out there.
Yeah, I was trying to catch the crappie.
well, Tom's has been there. Well, like I said, I still call it Tom's because I don't know the people that live there. That one still has been there. The ones that in the parish's yard, those just appeared. And then the one storm we had in the evening, I couldn't tell you if they were there because it was so dark. But then this one is in the light, so it was here 2 feet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to go down and take a look and see, because it's like Brian said, that hydraulic loading is blowing those out. What we put in there was 18-inch dual wall ADS tiling with a new intake in the backyard. The guy built it, well, put intake back there, which is overkill, but it was material we had, and the guy just put a big intake in the yard.
And that actually geysers, you should come out.
Oh, I've seen it, yeah. You're right. And that's from all the pressure from water uptown. And that's what this map's about. I just wanted everybody to understand why we're getting that kind of pressure down there on one line. 50 years ago, some of you were here 50 years ago. I was. And I remember some of those things. There was no grocery store up there on 7th and Main, 7th and Cedar. That was a house, and there were 3 other houses up there. That was a residential area. What we have now is 2 square blocks of quick runoff. And all that comes down, gathers in at the northwest corner of that intersection of Meridian and East Fifth. It's on the diagram there. That is where we're going to intercept the water from those 2 square blocks and run them down Cedar Street with this new Highway 38 project. That's going to take a big load off of what's coming your direction, a huge load, and that's a quick runoff. So I want everybody to understand that. And as we're talking, I'm looking at this, if you follow that line down Fifth Street, down to where it starts to go off to the northeast, and then you see like four different Well, you can come up here and look.
Okay. You look at it.
Yeah.
You know, too.
I can share. But here's what we're talking about. That's your backyard right there.
Okay.
And we have got this big line coming down from up here. Those are those 2 blocks I was talking about. All that water comes down here, along with this water off of,
Mhm.
you know, those arrows. That means the water is coming this way. So that adds to it. But all the water we're going to capture in this reconstruction is that 2 blocks that's in the south. But it comes down here and it crosses over the
Okay.
driveway.
Yeah.
Right there, spills over the driveway into the backyard. That little arrow right there is that, I believe that's that intake.
The
that
manhole,
big-
yep.
That big intake. Something comes down from 6th Street, and I'm not sure where that comes from. According to this map, and this is a map that we have, was here when I got here.
Okay.
So this is one, and then this is another intake off of 5th Street that heads down that direction too. We're gathering a whole bunch of water right there. And the pressure going out, keep in mind how much, that's 18 inches going in, I don't know what those others are. And going out, can't possibly handle it. You would need probably, we'd have an engineer there to do that, but I would say you'd have to have at least a 60-inch pipe going out to handle that. Ron, what do you think? How big a pipe would you need on something like that? To handle,
Basically, I'll come back and say you keep the first inch on your property.
Well, right here is a manhole too.
She got
In
7
this
feet.
property, and when they ran a camera down there, there's a
She's got
whole
7
bunch of
feet.
empties in there. Right, the Tom Ehrman's property,
Yeah.
there's a manhole there.
yeah.
It's an intake, oh, sorry, I don't know my correct terminology, sorry.
So anyway, I just wanted the council and you folks to know what we're actually dealing with in terms of infrastructure. Could there be changes? Yeah, I mean, there are gonna be some changes up here. What we do down here is another story, and that's the council decision. And that would be an engineer, in my mind, an engineer coming in and saying, well, here's how much, here are the hydraulics, here's what we need to do. Now, as far as separating, getting back to what Ron was talking about, separating manhole, stormwater and the sanitary, we've made some changes in town to correct that. One of the changes down at the football field, Ron, getting back to you, we did put an overflow in from Plum Street over to that East Lagoon line. Put a manhole down there in the parking lot. Remember that? I don't know if you were on board. You might have been out of the community at that point.
That's back when I was playing with the EPA and Sheridan for SSO.
Yeah. So anyway, that took a lot of pressure off of what Brian was talking about. The manhole that's behind, under the bush. And before we did that, we were blowing that manhole off the park entrance with sanitary loading. Every time we had a big event.
And seeing now we end up with it in the concession stands. I get the joys of cleaning that up when it occurs. And then.
Does it blow off that?
And then the manhole right
Does
next to
that
the.
still blow that off? Because the other thing that we did on the other end, on 13th Street, was put a bypass in up there to go to the west trunk line. And we did that on, as an in-house.
Steve, so from what I understand though, the Main Street project will take a lot of that runoff from the first couple of blocks. Is that what I heard there?
It'll take all that.
Okay.
But not until
So that, so
approximately
now it's just preparing it.
2024.
Yeah.
Right,
That's the
right.
second phase of the
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
Second phase.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the second phase.
Right.
Next year, that's 2 years out.
Right.
I just want everybody to be on the same page with us on that.
Mhm.
And that will be that's a huge pipe going down Peter Street. It's gonna collect a lot of water.
Okay, so this is gonna be a odd question, because when we bought the property, we didn't mind it, because they said we could not build up back there. Because it would add to the water situation. I do know our neighbor has began to build back up and is talking about building a retaining wall. And it's adding to the pushing in each direction. Now, is there any, I mean, is that adding to some of this or what? I don't know how I want to word this.
I don't know.
You know what, you've seen it, and I know your thing, because I know what he's told Jay, because Jay was gonna come and state it, but, yeah,
You know, I think that might be I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that
okay.
exactly.
Nope, that's fine.
I
just-
do know that there's a lot of water coming down that pipe underground and it's bubbling up.
Because if you look at the video, you can see how it's actually pushing around it and it's coming actually further this way and it's actually shoving more this way and putting more pressure. That's why we asked you.
You know
Um,
this.
Yeah,
No, I just figured I didn't know if that's,
Are you looking?
I think
Okay.
basically, I think basically, from my standpoint, that's what I wanted to make sure that as a council, we knew what we're dealing with in terms of pipes and flow and all that. And maybe it goes beyond what we do here.
What size are these pipes? Where they intersect?
Down there, that, the one going into, the one coming out that we replaced is an 18-inch dual. And I think that's the one, that short piece
yeah,
up there.
that's the one that blew a hole in it already once.
What are the other ones?
I don't know.
12?
I think they're smaller because last time I knew Tom said his was smaller, but that's also part of the old city dump too.
Hey, they're not oversized, let me put it that way.
So,
Not oversized, they're way undersized for what we're talking about.
well, no, I'm just saying that's why I don't know if they're smaller, if that's double adding to
They're
this.
smaller
Back
than what
pressure
you
this
put
way
in.
and pressure this way, we're getting the double whammy.
Mr. Wagner actually had a question for you too.
Well, I was just wondering if, on a staff level, if we could get together and talk about whether there are any options between now and 2024 as far as some of the sinkholes, maybe looking into if there are any cross connections to the sanitary.
I'm really concerned about that one.
Well, you know, I hate to bring this up, but sometimes those problems are caused by tie-ins to roof drains or sump pumps, you know. I don't know if that's ever been looked at in that area.
There's really never been an issue until just late last fall. And like I said, then we got sick and then we hit winter and we really didn't have anything until a little bit later this spring, rain wise.
And I'm not sure what we can come up with, but I feel like we ought to try to look at it on a staff level and see what can be done in the meantime, if anything.
Okay.
If we're getting water blowing up through the pipes we put in, obviously there's a hole someplace.
Well, and I know you guys weren't sure how that pack was gonna work either with all the
Well-
pressure till you could get everything else done.
We use good quality stuff,
I
80.
mean, I don't know
Good
what you
quality
did.
stuff and it's heavy duty, really heavy duty. Now, over time, I don't know.
It's been a while. I
Hey,
mean, it
and
was doing good.
Do we have coons in there chewing on stuff or?
We have coons in there.
Beavers out of town. I don't
No,
know.
you have coons, there's coons.
All
Yeah,
right.
I saw them back. I should have told you this.
There's a family, there were 5 coons.
I saw 4 of them climb up in that bush next to your road there.
No, there was 5.
Five?
When it started flooding on the 4th day, the 5 of them come out of that.
Yeah.
They're young ones.
Yeah.
Up in our tree.
Okay.
So Steve, are you comfortable that's clear downstream from their backup? Storm drain? Are you comfortable that there? Are you comfortable that the storm drain is clear through East Street out to the Kirkwood?
That's a good question. Let me answer it this way. I know that pipe I'm pretty sure that pipe is full because the manhole lid on Mulberry and Fifth comes off because there's so much pressure. It'll float that lid 2 blocks away. So there's no doubt in my mind that we've got storm water surge pressure in there that can do a lot of things.
Ethan Crope and I dug that pipe in there. That ADS pipe we put in there, it's not sealed joints like sewer or water main, it's just the wrap around plastic with the zip ties, so that the water coming out of that, you come right out of the joints, that they don't seal tight. But I was just gonna say about the pipe that we dug up, it was very deteriorated, rusty, galvanized steel. It was maybe about 15 or 16 inch. The quality, the condition was poor. The pipe we put in was good pipe. What we did is we went in from the structure, I think that you're calling Airsman's up there. And we dug down through under the fence and we dug basically into the road bank of Clare Street to where it got about deep enough we didn't want to go farther. We poured a cement collar there and stopped. The condition there from there down really didn't improve a lot. So there's probably some concern with the condition of that. Not only that, possibly some little bit of bottlenecking too. But anytime you take a mountain and you run the water down and you're gonna have some pressure points in there. It's gonna have to relieve somewhere. I think we're getting that on the sanitary and the storm. One other comment, and I'll finish. 2016, we did the whole full-scale SSES of the whole town. There's probably some stuff in there about that area. Not a lot of red flags come from that area, from that study, but we already did that study. So let's pull it back off the shelf, maybe see if there's any comments in that area. If there would have been a major cross connection, it would have been found during the smoke testing.
Okay, all right, thank you. And thank you guys for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, do you still want me to send you the pictures just so you guys have them?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then just let me know tomorrow if you get them, please.
Maybe I can get your email.
Okay, Linda's got it, so I'll let her grab
I'll
it
get
and,
one. Yep.
okay.
You're
All right.
gonna come down and can you point out those?
Yeah,
tables that- Yeah.
I'll be home tomorrow.
One of you?
I mean, I have kids tomorrow, so.
You'll be home. Okay. I need to see those. I just, let's see if she can show you.
Yep, we can walk around and everything, just let me know when you're there.
Excuse me.
I know.
Might very well. I'll be there. I'll be walking around back there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so those
Thanks
are
for
the,
listening to me.
yes, those are the two scheduled communications, and now we'll be to the unscheduled. So if anybody would like to address the council now, that would be the time, and there's nobody else online. All right, I'll close that portion of the meeting, and then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Excuse me. These are items that can be enacted with one motion, and it's the approval of the council meeting minutes from June 13th, approval of the council meeting minutes from June 20th, approval of the library minutes from May 23rd, approval of the library director's report from May of 22, approval of the development director's report from May and June of 22, the approval of a liquor license renewal at Greenside Pub, the approval of a street closure from on East 5th Street between Cedar and Meridian for Touch a Truck on Saturday, August 6th, approval of a pay estimate from the CDBG of the North Avenue Water Main Improvements to Triple B in the amount of $170,423.35. Approval of a trip reimbursement to Dean Chalice in the amount of $7,500. Approval of a trip reimbursement to Blake and Shelley Willard at the Motel Tipton in the amount of $7,500. And the approval of a trip reimbursement to Randy Amison in the amount of $5,925. And then the final one is the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Do any of these need to be pulled out separately? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Cummins with the first and Helm with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins, Embry.
All right, so we have two public hearings tonight. The first one is a public hearing that would be on a proposed amendment to the Tipton urban renewal area. I do need a motion to open the public hearing. Cummins with the first and McNeil with the second.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
Yeah.
Cummins, Embry, McNeil.
Yes.
All right, the hearing is open. Mr. Wagner?
We have not received any comments for this item prior to the hearing. I don't know if anybody here tonight wants to comment on it.
Seeing there are none, I'll ask a motion to close this public hearing.
Motion.
McNeil with the first and Poston with the second.
Bastian, Helm,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
All right, our second public hearing is to enter into an electric revenue loan agreement. I do need a motion to open this one as well. Cummins with the first and Helm with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins, Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Poskett,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Again, for this item, we haven't received any comments prior to the meeting. We have, for this and the other public hearing, we have resolutions further under city business, and I can quickly summarize what these are about when we come to those.
Okay. All right, nobody else? Is there a motion to close this public hearing? Cummins with the first
Second.
and McNeil with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins, Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Poskett,
Yes.
All right, the move down to city business, and the first one, it's a resolution that would approve the final plat of the Sunrise Estates 10th edition, but it would also accept the dedication of Parkview Lane Extension, the right-of-way, and all public improvements installed. Mr. Wagner?
I think of all the people in Tipton, I am in the top 5 of people who are finally glad to see this event. I know I'm not first because you're first. But this one took a lot longer than I thought it was for how far along the project was. And I'm glad that it is at the point of acceptance. There are a few more things to do after this to make it finally official, but this is the last procedural step for the city council to accept or approve the final plat. And then, of course, with that, those lots can be sold, they can be developed. And then it accepts the public improvements and the right-of-way shown in the plat as Lot A as now the city's and under city maintenance, city ownership.
All right. Any questions?
Can I
Dave?
make one quick statement?
Yes.
Actually had 2 requests on this. The first is actually approve it. It consists of about 9 building lots. When they're completed, they'll probably add about $3 million to the real estate valuation of Tipton. The second thing, and probably around $30,000 in utilities. The other thing I would like to request the city to do is there's very limited access to the city park from the north side of town. And I would like the city to begin their trail system on that pink line, which is right to the east of lot number 5. This would enter the city park on the west side of the soccer fields, and provide access to the park from the entire north side of town. There's no direct sidewalks hardly to get to the park, and people are already walking through that area. I think the city needs to have a trail start through there, and they can hook up eventually to the parking lot there by the pool, maybe up to the volleyball courts. But I think that's something the city should do, because the opportunity to get access to that park is closing. You won't be able to get it from the east through the co-op. And if I continue developing, then that's going to limit that access. So I think this would be an opportunity for the city to get some access to the park. It would happen on the utility easement that the city's going to have control of anyway. So that would be one of my requests, along with the approval for the resolution.
All right, you guys got any questions or comments for this?
The trail part isn't included
No,
right now, but it would be
Yeah.
under consideration, yes.
I think it's a great thing. Needs more housing. All right, then I will call for a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion.
Cummins with the first and McNeil with the second.
Cummins, Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
The second one is a resolution that would schedule a public hearing to consider the approval of a lease agreement that would have a 10-year initial term between the city and Murray Menti. Mr. Wagner?
Well, you have in your packet a proposed lease agreement and with it, the resolution to set a public hearing. Since it's a lease of more than 3 years, it has to be done with a public hearing ahead of approving it. I emailed this agreement, the lease to Murray and to I mailed it to him last week. And it's similar to some information that I gave to the council. It was for his review. It was to let him know that it was coming to this meeting tonight. And if he had any concerns, to let us know or to come to the meeting. The other thing that I mentioned was this lease agreement parallels the one from 2018 that was done for the downtown property next to the alley where there was a ADA ramp and platform. Now, at that point in time, the council wanted to come up with a lease dollar amount. And since it was a 10-year term, the council wanted it up front. Well, what we did basically, and this is just generally, so it's probably oversimplified, but we took the taxes on the land only of the nearby property and got its per square foot amount. And then we applied that to the number of square feet that the ramp would take up. And that would be for 1 year. And then we took it times 10 for 10 years. But even though we did all that, since it was such a small area, the total lease was less than $250 for 10 years. In this case, if the same type of calculation, same type of math is used for a much larger part of the right of way, the calculation was the upfront lease amount for 10 years was $4,320. So my question for the council is, do you want to stay consistent with the type of math, type of calculation you used for the first lease? Do you want to require it up front, like for the first lease? Do you want to look at it in a different way or have payments done in a different way? Now, I guess I was kind of expecting Murray to be here, and if not be here, at least let me know what he thought. So I don't know if you want to go ahead and schedule a public hearing and just see what he says in the meantime. I guess you could do that. But I haven't heard from him yet on whether this form of lease is okay with them or if the amount that the same math comes to for this project is acceptable.
I think we should use the same math.
Was there a time frame that he needed this by? Do you remember?
It seemed like just as soon as
Just
possible.
when it-
Yeah.
that's right.
So then you could start building it.
Yeah, I feel like you would do that, or we can table it. But
So-
I'm not sure what the alternative is if we don't do it that way.
Okay.
You mean the
Right.
calculation?
Yeah, the calculation.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, does anybody else see a different way?
I think you need to table until you have more information.
Well, you could, if time is of the essence for him, I guess you could set the public hearing for the 18th. And if it unravels, then you really aren't out of anything.
Right, that's what I would recommend.
As far as the figure goes, it should be the same.
You mean the calculations?
What you're doing is treating everybody the same,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's the way it should stay.
As far as the amount
I'll
of
make a
front
motion for the public hearing.
All right, Cummins with the first, to do the hearing, excuse me, and Posture with the second.
Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Posturing,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, so number 3, discussion and possible action concerning a gap loan for Circle P Veterinary Services in the amount of $200,000. And then this would also have that it would authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all related documents. Linda.
I have asked Dr. Prickett to be here tonight as well. So this is a very exciting business growth meeting for our community and a wonderful anchor for our southern downtown. It is very impressive that we now have 5 veterinarians. It is very impressive that they have 10 full-time employees and 3 part-time. And it is very impressive what they are trying to do for our community. And so Ryan and I have been working with both doctors, John and Alana, for several months because we want them to stay here. They are vital for our community and they are invested in our community. And I think we also need to be invested in them. It's over $1 million project for them to buy, renovate the veterinarian clinic that they bought, the old Case building on Cedar Street. They would like to be in January 1st of 2023. They have brought a lot of business to Tipton, and doing so, they have helped our economy. I would like our council to really consider to make this come as a reality now. We really want to help them. So it would be a gap loan in the amount of $200,000. The loan would be paid off in 7 years. The installments would begin January 1st of 2023. It would be at 0.5% interest. Like we have every loan that we've done through the city, we go through the attorney, we get the promissory note, all the official documents ready and signed, so everything is done like it is supposed to be done. The city would be listed second on the mortgage behind Hills Bank. So I just want to again stress the importance of this building clinic being an anchor for our downtown. And I'm not privileged to say much at this point, but there is going to be a lot happening in that area with the building that Dr. O'Donnell owns. And so it is vital that we keep moving forward. So Dr. John, do you have anything that you would like to add for the council?
We really do enjoy being in town. I think most of you have been through there, but the clinic has a pulse and we kind of feed off the city's pulse and hope the city can feed off us. A lot of people make, a trip to town and go through their errands and we become part of it. But we feel like we have good contact with the community by being in it. We explore lots of different options. The Case property happened to come up amongst that exploration. It has, probably, I would hope 50 years worth of, sort of satisfactory space for us, kind of based, a couple generations for sure. So we feel like it's a logical place. We'd like to stay in town. This certainly will help us stay in town. Does anybody have any questions on, the nature of the business, the expansion, anything at all?
Well, I think it's exciting.
Can you explain like how it's gonna look? Because I know during some of the meetings you had some renderings, but.
So there's 3 buildings there, all on the east side of the street. There's the main, they used to call it the Parks Building, the retail building, which sits right there on Highway 38. That'll become basically the small animal hospital
and retail. So that's where you walk in, that's where you bought products, and that'll happen there. That building won't necessarily change shape. It'll, like the south side, we'll get some wainscoting and get cleaned up. The west facing side, it already kind of looks like, like the old general store theme. We're gonna put a sort of a short, like a false, like a 3-foot overhang roof with lights under it. And then barn board on that wall facing Highway 38 there. And that'll wrap around just to the main client entrance will be on the corner there. There'll be another entrance right on Highway 38. It'll actually be an exit for a particular special room in the clinic. So some updated colors. I do have a vision, the big case sign that they took with in the corner there. There's power to that. I intend to put the biggest flagpole I can sort of put there. So we'll put that in the corner there. I like that idea. People come into town on the south side, it'd be a nice part of the property. And so then on the east side of the alley there, those buildings won't change shape or look. There's a little bit of simple maintenance, that will be part of the upgraded facilities. Those will be animal handling facilities. But again, there's enough space there that everything will be on the roof. We are going to add the current building. We can't do any horse work in. So the north building on the east side of the alley will be a little equine facility we can do.
And you said whoever's bringing those large animals, they'll be able to drive, correct?
Yeah, the cattle building, which will be the south side, you'll be able to drive through. There will be very secure containment. That's kind of a ongoing issue in our current location. Every once in a while, there's a little more excitement than we intend. Our dog closed most of the holes. Cattle used to jump through a particular window, but not anymore. But every once in a while, something gets out, and so we'll have basically a redundant livestock handling set of gates to keep things in, and then. I guess it pairs well with the locker, right? That's a sort of another natural thing as far as just animals in town, the nature of business. Not that we intend to have any partnership. No intent of partnership.
Tracy's only got 3 right there.
But just, sort of, I don't know, zoning type. Stuff. But no, we love the community. It was actually my wife, Alana, who was really passionate about staying in town. And so I'm sort of the one that puts it to pencil to find a way. And so we're excited to grow. Tipton is the hub of the business, right? So the center, it's where all of the, I don't know what you want to call it, operations originate from. We bought the little clinic in New Liberty. So that's a satellite. So we operate a little, a small operation out of there. We don't intend to be done growing. So there could even be more satellite type locations, but Tipton is the hub, the largest, that's where the HR and the accounting and the majority of the sales would originate here. The ambulatory work would all, the trucks would leave from here and that sort of thing. So that's part of our vision. I guess we do have keep everybody here, but we have a long history. Both my parents are veterinarians. My wife's father is a veterinarian. And we have 2 daughters, so you never know. There may be continued ownership in the family. Certainly won't push for it, but.
And I will add that all the necessary financial information John and Alana got to me, and everything is in order that way. So.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's great for the town. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve this.
Motion.
Cummins with the first
I'll second.
and Poston with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Posturing,
Yes.
Helm,
Yeah.
Cummins?
Yes.
Hembry?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lindenbeck. All right, number 4 tonight, it's a resolution to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area and approve the urban renewal plan amendment for the Tipton urban renewal area. Mr. Wagner?
Yeah, this resolution and the next item with an ordinance are related to the urban renewal area or TIF district. We've talked about the projects that this is updating or including at other meetings, so I won't mention all of them, but the one that really caused us to need to amend is the Rhinos building and its renovation. And just a reminder, so far, 200,000 has been obtained through a grant for the 2 proposed upper story apartments. 100,000 was more recently granted to the city as a catalyst grant for the ground floor, commercial floor. And the applications aren't over. We have another one going in for tax credits similar to the Hardacre project. And hopefully we'll be able to layer some more funding on that. We renewed the trip and drip programs, and you can see from the consent agenda how popular those have become. And there are some other projects in here too, but those are the ones that really come to mind the most. So this is a resolution that approves the urban renewal plan that includes those projects. The next item is the ordinance that formally sets up the urban renewal area.
Any questions for Brian Wagner? If there are none, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion.
McNeil with the first and Cummins with the second.
Yes.
Postian? Helm?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
Hembry?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right, so to number 5, this is an ordinance that would provide the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the July 2022 edition of the Tipton Urban Renewal Area. Mr. Wagner, you kind of explained this, right?
Yes. Yeah, this would be up for 3 readings. You can do it as 3 readings across 3 meetings if you want to. I wouldn't suggest doing all tonight. You could do, for example, if you want to shorten the time period, you could do 1 reading tonight and the last 2 at your next meeting. You can approach it either way that you want to.
All right. Is there a motion to pass this first reading?
Motion.
McNeil with the first
Second.
and Cummins with the second.
Helm?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
Hembry?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Postian?
Yes.
All right, number 6 is a resolution that would take additional action on a proposal to enter into an electric revenue loan agreement.
Yes, and this has to do with 2 major projects. One is the one involving solar panels, which we are still looking to have a presentation for you at your July 18th meeting. From the engineering standpoint, the larger area involving the 11 acres looks to be feasible from their point of view. But we also have to turn those results over to Maggie at Spear Financial because she's the one who has to help us figure out whether it fits into a revenue bond, this revenue bond scenario. So we don't know exactly how that'll turn out. We're still waiting to figure that part out, but this gets the ball rolling. It makes it possible to do that project. And then the other one is the feeder project for the industrial park. That one we're still in the process of looking at. The engineer is going to talk to the apparent low bidder about the time period in which materials coming in for the project have been kind of stretched out with different arrival periods coming in. So the goal is to see if we can work with the apparent low bidder to have their schedule meet the schedule of materials as it arrives. But this resolution for an electric revenue loan agreement includes that too. It can also include other projects involving the electric distribution system.
All right, anybody have any questions about this revenue loan agreement?
Not raising the rate.
Well, with the solar, the goal is still to have what we pay for, or what we save in paying for wholesale power go toward debt on the solar panels, so that won't affect the rate. What we're looking at for the rest of it is we're wrapping debt around debt that is going away, being paid off, so that as one falls off, the other one comes into place. So hopefully it won't have an impact because of the bond itself.
So basically, kind of refinancing infrastructure for electric.
All right, is there a motion to enter into this agreement?
Motion.
Embry with first and Cummins with second.
Cummins, Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
All right, number 7, it's a resolution that would establish a public hearing for the 2020 wastewater improvements CDBG grants.
Is that one yours?
Yeah. Yep.
It's just a requirement for the CDBG funds that we had, that we hold a public hearing. So this resolution would be setting the public hearing for that for your next meeting, July 18th. So that's all it is.
All right, is there a motion to establish the public hearing, which
Motion.
will be their next meeting?
Motion.
McNeil with the first and Cummins with the second.
Hembry,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins.
Sorry.
What?
So it says we have a closed session next. I know that we do have a report from Brian. Will the council and anybody be upset if I moved the reports ahead of the closed session?
Absolutely not.
All right, so let's do that.
Thanks. I'll make it
We
quick.
want Brian to
Mr.
get
Brennan?
all of it.
I just wanted to tell you about the water tower cleaning and the findings and the comments that Russ made. So we cleaned the exterior, which is part of this $12,200 contract. And so that was the $5,500 portion. If you guys remember, it's been a while ago, we approved this. And so I think overall the results were pretty good. We do have a coating there that is reaching pretty close to 20 years old. Russ had some comments on that. There were certain places on the tank where he used his power washing apparatus and he worked, like, for instance, the paw on the west side. He worked and worked and worked on that and tried to get it. He wasn't satisfied with what he was getting there, but it just wouldn't come out of it. So he kind of come out of that washing with some suggestions. He's saying that in 4 or 5 years, when we have him come back, it'll be due for a washing again in 3 to 5. But he said that there's some UV damage on the top. It needs some touch up here and there. As he was power washing in areas of the weld seams, he was getting some red water to run down the seams. He said that's a little sign of rust starting. Of course, the prep is the hardest where the weld beads are, and that's where your paint's gonna start failing, probably first. But he suggested next time around, let's budget approximately another $10,000 in addition to the cleaning. And let's prep and recoat that top portion where the UV damage is. He said also, let's touch up the weld beads, and he said he can take like a Scotch-Brite type rotary tool rough up the pause and the letters and let's redo those. So he did say, don't hold him to that yet. He said, let's do the interior cleaning first. We haven't done that yet. The reason we're waiting is the demand is really high right now. We don't like to drain the tower for cleaning during the highest demand of the season. So we're talking about maybe the first week of September, doing the interior cleaning. We may find more items, more needs when we do that. You may know this, we are already putting, I think, about $3,600 per year away in the capital improvements plan for the next cleaning already. I think we'd probably better at least about double that. So if we can figure out how to cash flow it, we'll work on that CIP and get that bumped up for the next time.
All right. Thank you.
I just have one thing.
Yep.
Sorry, 30 seconds. So I want to thank the mayor, council, city manager for helping me reorganize the parade time on the 4th of July. It all went really smooth, and I really appreciate when I had to reach out to everybody and get everything reorganized, how helpful everyone was to me. So thank you very much.
Sure thing. Nope. All right. Does anybody on the council have any reports? All right, city manager? All right, then we'll probably head into closed session. I just need somebody to motion to open the closed session.
Motion.
Cummins with the first and Helm with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins, Hembry.
Yes.
All right, so we will be into closed session.
Can we take